Submitted for the approval of the Midnight Society.
Oh, joy!
Let's rock.
It makes me wanna fart!
Dear Journal, it's me, Doug.
Do you have it?
Baby's gotta do what a baby's gotta do.
That was a hoot!
On your mark. Get set.
Oh, here it goes!
Welcome to Splat Attack, where we're taking it back to the slime-filled past. I'm your co-host, Brett.
I am your other co-host, Alex Nance.
And today we are going to dive deep back into the dark of our 90s childhood memories as we celebrate the 30th anniversary reunion of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Yes, it's been that long since we first had our presence reunited with the Midnight Society members and all those wonderful scary tales of this quintessential 90s horror anthology. But here today, we have several guests who have emerged from the darkness to join us and reminisce about our fondest memories together. Guests, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Hi, guys. I'm David Winning. I directed a bunch of episodes of Afraid of the Dark, one of my favorite series back in the 90s. Many moons ago, and I'm trying to tap all the brain cells to actually remember a lot of it.
Hey, Dave. I was first in an episode in season 5 and then became part of the Midnight Society for season 6 and 7.
Fabi, composer. I did a bunch of shows too, from first season to the last season. I was there for a good part of a great series.
Hi, I'm Susan Kim. I don't even remember. I wrote some episodes. I also wrote a bunch of crazy merch stuff. You know, I did the 2XL robot and the audio tape and stuff like that. It was really one of the best things I think I've written for like over 60 shows, and it's still like one of my favorites ever. So I'm glad to be here.
Hi, I'm Jeff Fisher, musician, composer. So yeah, I did a whole bunch of shows too. Starting with the Phantom Cab, I believe, the pilot, and throughout the whole amazing series. So, yeah.
Amos Crawley. I played Ethan Wood in The Tale of the Ghastly Grinner, written and directed by Ron Oliver.
Very good.
Oh, I'm DJ MacHale, along with my partner Ned Kandel. We created Are You Afraid of the Dark and made all 91 episodes. And we're really thrilled to be here and to see so many wonderful faces, because there are a lot of people that made that show. It wasn't just us. It was a lot of people, talented people who made that show. And it's great to see so many of them here tonight.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Jason Lee, and I wrote and directed, I don't know how, I forget how many I directed. I remember we did one and DJ said, you did it, that's the number. But I did a bunch of them and loved every second of doing it. And I can safely say that if it wasn't for DJ and Ned and the entire creative team at Are You Afraid of the Dark, I'd probably be selling oranges at the side of the freeway.
Hi, I'm Annik Chartier. I was the key makeup artist on all of Are You Afraid of the Dark episodes. Ooh. And I created most of the monsters and the looks of Are You Afraid of the Dark with a lot of fun. And to this day, that is, I think, my best experience. I think it was a fantastic platform and an amazing way to learn how to work together with everybody and make every dollar count and have a whole lot of fun doing it.
I'm Mattt Smiley. In my acting days, I think Are You Afraid of the Dark was probably one of the first things that I did. I played young Jean in one of the flashback episodes, I think 3. And even to this day, every time I end up going somewhere, people always bring up Are You Afraid of the Dark? Well, I kind of feel like it's a small part of my journey. It really is impressive to see how powerful that show has been, because anybody, they're like, even if you're like, no, I really wasn't too big of a part, they're like, oh no, it's amazing. So it really is nice to see that it's 30 years later, and it's impressive.
Hi, well, I am the other partner on this. DJ and I have been together since 1986. We have been making television shows. This one obviously was the best, but I've had such a wonderful time, and looking at all you people has really been great. But yeah, we've been together for a long time, making a lot of shows, and this was really obviously something that's in everybody's vocabulary everywhere. So that's really nice.
My name is Jason Alisharan. I played Frank, one of the second generation versions of the Midnight Society with Ross. And look, I'm just proud to be a part of this panel and to see so many faces I haven't seen in forever. Ned, Annik, again, I gotta say this, I was a first-time actor. This is the first filmed show I was on. And I was so again, kudos to Ned and DJ for, welcoming me in. But I remember being so nervous. But the first face I would see in the morning was Annik. And she would calm me down. And so just seeing her now, it brings back a lot. It means a lot to me. Just seeing her, calming presence for me every day. I remember that even now. So thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ross Hall. I played Gary along with Jason in the first 65 episodes of the show. I was also in the pilot of the show, and my character made a comeback for Tale of the Silver Sight, a multi-part episode in the second or the reincarnated version of Are You Afraid of the Dark? So great to be a part of this and to see everyone, people I haven't seen in decades. Great to see Ned, and I have interacted with DJ as well. And Nick, great to see you too. And too many people to name, but great to be a part of this. And yeah, Are You Afraid of the Dark was such a special part of my initiation into acting and my career. So very thankful to be with these people today.
All right. Thank you very much for introducing yourselves. We're all happy to have you here today. And we're going to just jump into quick little tidbits about the history of Are You Afraid of the Dark, and then jump into some questions for all of you. So just a brief history recap here. The pilot USA premiere was October 25th, 1991, which is the day that this episode is going to air on our podcast. Season 1 officially aired on SNICK in August 15th, 1992. Canada did have a few different dates for their airing, but if you want to look that up for YTV, you can find it somewhere else on the internet. The show lasted for 5 seasons during the original run, was then revived for 2 seasons from 1999 to 2000, and then was recently rebooted for 2 additional seasons as miniseries, which would be the Carnival of Doom in 2019, and most recently Curse of Shadows in 2021. Since then, many actors, actresses have gone on to do many great things from the show, including Rachel Blanchard, Elisa Cuthbert, Jacob Tierney, Vanessa Lengius, to name a few, in terms of their celebrity status rising. All of you as well have gone on to do great things, so I'm not discounting you either. And everyone who's here has at least one fond memory of the show, and we're gonna find out what those memories are. So starting off with our questions, this is for anyone. Feel free to chime in first. What did you enjoy most about working on the show?
The creative freedom and the collaboration was just unbelievable and unmatched. I've worked on very big budget things, and if they had the collaboration that we had on Are You Afraid of the Dark, we'd make things even more fantastic. That's my opinion.
I'll echo what
that's well said. Oh, go ahead, Deej.
I'll echo what Annik said, and that a lot of that is credit to Nickelodeon at that time, where if you talk to anyone who's in our position making shows back in those days, they'll give you the same answer, which is you could do what you wanted. It was so much creative freedom, where they once you showed, okay, we can make a show, this is what it is, this is what we're going to do, they're like, have fun storming the castle, make what you got to make. And that allowed us to have the creative freedom to do and allow everyone else to join in on that. So a lot of that is due to Nickelodeon at the time. That era didn't last forever, but we were all fortunate, beneficial of having made a show in that era for them.
I agree with you because I've had the opportunity to speak with a few other producers and writers and creators, and all of them have said the exact same thing, where during that time period, Nickelodeon was very open to let creators create.
I don't think I've ever
I did both Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps.
So did I.
Back and forth, and so did
Me
Dave.
too.
And so yeah, Amos. So the difference, and I'm sure David can speak to this too, but as a writer director, the amount of creative freedom I was given on Dark by DJ and Ned, and I mean, and Bonecutter too. I mean, the take your idea and go with it. Whereas Goosebumps, as lovely as it was a great experience and great fun, but there was a sense of corporate structure that was above you, that had everything had to be sort of vetted by the corporate entity that was Fox at the time. Whereas in our world, on Eye for the Dark, I think it's because we were in Montreal and they're like, just go, don't bother us, just go. Because the best thing was that we had the time difference back then. And remember you had to fax scripts? I'm sure DJ will remember that. You had to fax scripts back across the country back then. So they left us alone and they gave us a creative freedom. And they also, because they trusted DJ and Ned. I mean,
Well, there's one thing that kind of people forget about is that, or don't think about because they don't care, is that people say, whoa, which is more popular? Are You Afraid of the Dark or Goosebumps? And it's like from a pure eyeball point of view, it's Goosebumps. And that's because Goosebumps was on broadcast TV. Back in 1992, cable was really still in its early stages, and they're just kind of finding their way. So it was before it became the juggernaut that it being cable, that it became. Now it's like over. It's funny, but where Fox, you said it right, that Fox had that hierarchy. It was a broadcast network, and we're in everyone's homes, and suddenly eyeballs. So. But you were going to say something, Susan. What were you going to say?
What I loved, it wasn't just, as a writer, you write things and then they never get translated at all the way you imagine them to be written. But what was so exciting was sort of writing it. And then from then on, just watching it. And when you finally see it on the air, it's like you see that level of freedom at every stage of production. That you see, like, it's so cool meeting all of you, because obviously I never met any of you because I was just the writer in New York City. But just the beautiful production, the incredible acting, the really big choices made with like special effects and makeup. And you did beautiful work. It was just like everybody was helping tell the story, and it was really collaborative, and that was so wonderful. It was just really, it was freedom at every stage, and you could just, that never happens. That never happens.
Before you say hi to Daniel, hold on. About time.
I want to add to that.
And you look marvelous. Let me tell you. I'm glad that Ron and Susan are here in particular. They're representing writers on the show, I guess me as well. But the true Midnight Society were the writers of that show. And when you think about it, people talk about the show and they say, oh, I love Betty Ann's stories, or I like Frank's stories, or I like, it's like, and that's good. But they were really Susan's stories and Ron's stories. They're the ones, they were the creative people that came up. They were the Midnight Society. Okay, now we can say hi to Daniel. Sorry.
Yeah, I want to add one thing to about Nickelodeon. We were not exactly veterans at making television shows. We'd made some. DJ and I had made one series, but we were not a veteran. But they were rookies, and they were so thankful because we had done one show that they were willing to pretty much go along with what we knew. We had all grown up together. We were all friends, and it was like, guys, you know how to do it, go for it. And it was really amazing because that would, it just wouldn't happen now, but it really happened then. And you really kind of knew you were kind of lucky because we had made a show for HBO and it wasn't quite the same. This was really special. And we kind of understood that. And, and it just was, just sometimes it works.
For me, if you don't mind, I think that what I remember was the challenge. Every episode musically and I story-wise was completely different. So it wasn't like working on a regular series where the theme was always the same. Every show was like, one was green, one was red, one was polka dots, and it was all over the place. And I remember like the briefings 95% of the time came from DJ, and he was really picky, and he was really picky about the music. So I really got to learn how to work and listen, be able to put in my point of view as a creative composer, but making sure that the message was what the director or the producer wanted. But it was a challenge. It was fun. It was like, someone said it was like college. I think it was more like a PhD. It was like it was tough, but it was mini movies. Even though they were like 22-minute shows, they were like mini movies, and the detail, and for a little bit of time that we had, a little bit of money that we had, I think we did really, really amazingly well. I'm really proud of it, and I'm proud of of course I work closely with DJ. I'm sure Ron and David directed some of the shows that I did, but honestly I can't remember which ones we worked on. I don't know, about 40 shows or so, but I between Jeff and myself, I think we did probably 95% of the shows, and it was great directing, great stories. It was it was an awesome experience.
And thank you guys for incredible music.
Can I jump off on that for a second?
Music was great.
Back when we started the show, the Canadian production company, who they put in half the money, Nickelodeon was half the money, they said to me, it's like, okay, what we want to do musically, because they'd mostly done animation up to that point. I think they'd only done animation up to that point.
Yeah.
So they said, what we want to do is we want you to create a library of music that you just, have just 40 cuts or whatever, and then you can just pick it and use it over and over again. Shows. And it was one of the few times that I had to say, no, that is not how we're doing this thing. Every one of these shows is different. Every one of these shows has a different flavor, has a different, it's red or it's blue, as Ray said. And we found these two guys, Ray Fabi and Jeff Fisher, who are freaking brilliant and talented. Because when you think about it, they're not only the composers, they're also the performers. They performed all this, and there was it wasn't John Williams standing in front of a giant organ. They wrote all the parts. They wrote everything. It is phenomenal. And when you talk about a show that's really, I mean, it's reliant on a lot of things, but a scary show is hugely reliant on music to set the tone, to set the mood, to tell the story. Sometimes it wasn't always told. It's like these two guys saved more shows than I can tell you. And
it's so true. And Ray said something that I think is exactly why the show is still part of our culture now. Each episode was a movie unto itself. And DJ said that day one, when we first talked, I went down to his place to meet him in LA to talk about doing this. He said, I want them all to be their own movie. And I thought that was brilliant, because then what happens is, so I did one called The Tale of the Full Moon, about a kid and his mom and his dad and a werewolf and a thing. And Jeff did the music for it. And I remember saying to Jeff, okay, here's what I see for the music. Because it was kind of, Full Moon was kind of an odd duck in the run. And I said to Jeff, what if it's big band music? I want the whole of it be swing music and big band and jazz. Make it that. Like, really? I said, yeah, I think it's got to be that, because it's like a very 50s, 90s, 80s pastiche thing. It's like if John Waters and David Lynch had a baby and it was a werewolf. That's the show. And so Jeff goes, got it. And talk again. And then I get the temp thing comes in. I'm like, oh my God. It was honestly, Jeff, of all the stuff I've done in my tedious career, that's one of the greatest scores ever for anything I've done. And I've had like some great scores, but that is, to this day, that show is still here in my heart because of the music in that show.
Thank you so much, Ron. What's amazing is that, each one was a mini movie. The palette is huge. Just an orchestra is just a starting point. I remember there was a show called Pinball Wizard. The whole thing was like Pac-Man on acid. It was just tangerine. There were, there was just so much range and so much space and so much inspiration coming from the visuals and from the whole show. It was just like, dig in, let me go,
But DJ just did something. He just gestured something. I remember Pinball Wizard. I remember the nightmare of that show. And I remember you doing it and just going, what have I got myself into? I've never, that's like 30 years ago. You were like, what am I doing with this episode? It was a great episode. It was fantastic. But I remember you going through it going, oh my God, help me.
Well, the thing was so good about the thing is, 30 years later is that I look back on that as the nadir, the low point of how hard it was to make that show for all sorts of reasons. And then when I talk to people, and I just think, oh God, we bit off so much more that we can chew. This is too, this is so cheesy. It's horrible. Oh my God. But everyone made it work. And people today say, my favorite episode was Pinball Wizard. I'm like,
yeah.
Sometimes I wonder what the appeal about the frantic energy of Pinball Wizard is, because I do see that a lot when I talk with many Are You Afraid of the Dark fans, and I know both sides of the coin there. I know the production that goes into it from listening to podcasts and talking to you guys, and also just watching it myself over and over again. Maybe there's just something about that burning the midnight oil and, pulling out all the stops that just makes it a wild ride for everyone that, it sticks in their minds.
You want to know why I have white hair? It was from
Dad. That's why.
But we did get a new cast member who joined us. Daniel, will you introduce yourself and tell the listeners what your role was on the show?
Hey guys, my name is Daniel. I apologize for being late. Ross told me 11 o'clock Eastern, so I thought it was early. I don't know what happened.
It's okay, he's the little brother.
I was fortunate enough to join the cast on third season of Are You Afraid? And then I was even luckier to continue it after fifth season, after we wrapped, to come back for 6 and 7. So this is crazy. DJ, Ned, Jay, Dave, this is Ron, this is wow, this is pretty cool, guys. It's great to see everybody.
Yeah, we're definitely happy you were able to make it, Daniel, because I had some difficulty reaching you, but sometimes miracles happen when everyone gets together. So we're happy to have you.
I'm happy to be here. Yeah, thank you.
Alex, would you like to ask the next question?
Yes, I will happily ask the next question. What were some of the challenges you overcame to make your vision come to life on the screen?
And this is open-ended, so anyone can.
Yes,
lack of talent was a big challenge. I found that a challenge. I rose above it, but still. I'll tell you what the biggest challenge, the biggest challenge for us was to make sure that every single, and this is going to sound like I'm blowing smoke, but honestly, to make sure that our episode was better than the one the week before.
Yep.
That was the biggest challenge.
And
every week, because we got into a groove, there was this thing that started happening. And I was lucky enough, I did Phantom Cab. So I get to do the show where they did the pilot, because Deej did the pilot. And then they already kind of knew how it was working. So I get to come in for the first episode, but by then they already knew how to do the machine. So I get the advantage of all these great creative people who are now working together. So you slide in there and you get to make this great show. And then you're like, okay, now what? And every week we tried to top the week before. And it was like this really friendly competition of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get this now, to the point where David Winning and I, to this day,
are in competition.
David, are you still in the business, David? I wasn't sure. To this day, David and I still will do movies like in the same locations. I'll be like, you're going to use that crane? Okay, David, if that's how you see it, sure, whatever,
Yeah,
so,
I'll walk onto a set of a Hallmark movie and I'll hear this faint voice in the distance say, "Winning, get out of my shot." And it's Ron.
But yeah, we got to, that was the big challenge, was to make sure that the show that you're doing is worthy of at that point, like even halfway through first season, when things started to really it became apparent that this was something bigger than us, to make sure your show was worthy of the imprimatur, because DJ set this ridiculously high bar, and we're like, okay, how do we do this every week? How do we make this work? And
keep the plates in the air.
Well, I'll go so far as to say that I think most people, and I referenced it with Susan before, I think most people, and certainly Ray and Jeff will attest to this, is probably the biggest challenge they had to face is dealing with me being an asshole and saying, no, we got to do more. It's like, okay, fine. that's probably the general biggest challenge everybody had.
Also, I think also the hot water at the Manoir Lemoine was also so for those who don't know, the first few seasons of the show, We didn't
Yes,
have a lot of
Dave.
money. So we're staying at this place called the Manoir Le Moine, which I believe rented the rooms by the hour.
Hey, Ron, no, Ned and DJ were not staying there. I don't know where. No,
I was staying
they
there.
were staying somewhere else.
You did say there.
Oh,
I was
no,
staying
no,
there.
DJ stayed there because I used to see him go jogging in the morning. I was like, oh, he's so ambitious. But it was that place. So that was the thing. But it was like summer camp because we got to go back I was on the first 5 seasons. They didn't bring me back for the last 2 because I was,
You're too
gone.
big for us.
I was off making movies in Europe then.
Me neither.
But we were it was like summer camp. So every like 6 months or 8 months, we'd get a phone call and it was like, we're going back to Montreal, kids. And we would go back and all get together, get the band back together and make these shows. And then so the challenge there was, how do we do it better than we did last season? And how do we do it better than the season before and so on? That's always been the challenge with the show.
With less money. It's always less money every season.
I do. So you mentioned the
Wait,
memoir.
Dave, did you got less money, Dave? Oh,
yeah, I know. I was on the beach. I
Ben
was on the
Warlam
beach
one.
side, okay?
One of the things that I see a lot, people on social media and whatnot, they talk about their favorite villains and scary things and whatnot. And people talk about in the show that Ron directed, Tale of the Dark Music, where there's a monster in the basement and there's a hole and then you play music and it comes out. And one of the manifestations of the monster, whatever it was, I don't know, was this little doll that came out, this really creepy doll that came out. Well, and it cracks me up when I hear people talk about this doll was so scary. The person who played that doll was the person who worked behind the desk at the Manoir Le Moine.
Yes.
Because she was about 4 foot tall. And I was like, you could be a doll. She's like, okay.
And if you look at that doll right now from that show and then look at Squid Game, it's the same doll.
Interesting.
It's the same doll.
Same doll.
I do have to jump in here because that episode happens to be my favorite episode that both of you worked on. And that doll also scared the heck out of me. And it's so much so that I actually made a poster of it.
Oh my gosh, she is.
Oh,
it's just
yeah. You know, that cellar door demon got a pull coda in there. That episode definitely stood out to me because of the concept and the whole idea of it playing on your imagination, where it could be anything that could be coming out of that door, not just a pair of red eyes or a doll or even a skeleton carnival barker. And I feel like that's the beauty of some of these more memorable episodes, because they play on your imagination after the story's over, and it makes you wonder, well, what's happening before and after, or how did these characters get into these situations? So it really speaks to as a testament to the power of all these elements coming together and working really well for many of these episodes.
Yeah, sometimes the scariest thing is your imagination and not just having it spelled out for you on the screen.
Exactly.
Ned, what wasn't your wife the mother in that show?
Yes.
My wife?
Wasn't she?
No. Who was Andy's mother?
Wow. You remember the name?
Andy was the kid. He was the kid who got.
I don't remember.
No.
It's 30 years ago.
Really?
I remember doing that, but I remember the last shot we did on that episode. The very last shot was the skeleton carnival barker, and doing this camera move. Carol, I think it was one of Carol's, because Carol was on the show with us, and that, bless Carol, he taught me everything I know. And that push in on the skeleton carnival barker and the wind and the smoke and the thing, like that shot was the last shot we did in that show. And then the next morning, I got in a plane to go to London to start doing the Tomorrow People. And I was like, it was gonna be my last show, because we didn't know if Dark was coming back or not. And so that last shot was like, I put everything I had in it, and then there we go. And then boom, 6 months later, we're back at it.
So was that the last episode produced for season 1? Because I know it aired a slightly different order.
No, it was freaking Pinball Wizard was the last episode.
Right.
Wow.
DJ, let it go, man. Let it go. You gotta let it go.
I always think DJ had always said this thing like, man, if we can go 3 for 13, we're killing them.
Yeah.
It's hard. It is hard, especially to your own show about your own standards. So, our show wasn't so terrible. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible.
No, so when people ask what's your favorite episode, it's usually not purely an objective, oh, that was a really good episode, the story worked. You think of all the other stuff that it took you to do it, and
But what Alex said, which is very smart, is that about the imagination and what takes over. I think that people they bring their own baggage to each episode.
Yes.
So whatever you carry with you that creeps you the hell out, if you suddenly see it manifest in a TV show, you're gonna attach to that show in a way that maybe will require some sort of therapy down the road.
Yeah. I mean, I'm afraid of basements, so it stuck out to me. You know, some people are afraid of clowns, so that sticks out to you. Rinse and
Can I
repeat.
just say that I don't know how everyone else's Zoom screens are set up, but to see, I know Dave's kind of up to the side here, but to see Ross, Daniel, and Jason like in the same shot down here is really kind of surreal.
Pretty cool. 3 of the Midnight Society members all hanging out.
I got to tell you, Annik, it's just like those are those faces. Those were the everyday faces right there. It's really fun. Really fun.
I didn't even realize Annik and Amos are here too. Oh my God. Hey guys, I didn't even see.
Hi, Daniel.
You haven't changed at all. You look exactly the same.
I know, right? Look,
yeah.
What kind of elixirs you
I
need
gotta
to
tell
send
you,
them?
you haven't changed either.
Are you afraid of the
Well,
dark?
I appreciate
Just
it.
have a
out.
beard.
She's actually taking the elixir of life and the ring of eternity from your tale, the tale of the Guardian's curse.
Look at
Dave?
Ned. Ned is like the picture of Dorian Gray. Did you guys ever do the picture of Dorian Gray? Because that was a story that you did? Or
Yes, it was the
Okay.
tale of the captured souls.
Oh, there you go. Okay. So that's Ned Kandel right there.
Well, I might as well jump into my next question because we kind of already touched upon it. But for anyone who wants to chime in, what was your favorite episode to work on and why?
I can jump in. I don't know if this is open-ended or.
Yeah, go for it.
Annik,
Go.
you're jumping in after me here. Silver Sight, of course, for me, because we were able to, you know, be a part of the episode. I mean, doing the campfires for years, we were part of, you know, sitting around a campfire and opening the story and then closing it, but I never got to be a part of it. So Silver Sight to me was a really cool experience, and to be part of the story was, you know, in the last season was actually pretty special. And to be reunited with Ross after all those years was actually a lot of fun too. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Ross, what are your memories of Silver Sight? And then Matt can chime in after him since he was on that episode too.
Okay, let me think. I think it was making sure we didn't have texting back then, but I had to make sure Daniel got to set safely and properly.
on time and on time.
Yeah, and dressed too. I had to make sure he was dressed okay. And anyway, but it was, you know, I have to agree, Silver Sight. I also got to do an appearance in, which episode was Gary in? I think it was the
Super Specs.
Super Specs, that's right. So it was Super Specs, short scene there, but then yeah, definitely Silver Sight was great to have that arc with the new Midnight Society and learn a little bit about the Midnight Society's past with Harry's grandfather. And yeah, that was a great experience to do that. Not necessarily working with Daniel again, but overall it was fun for sure.
Matt, then Dave Deveau, what are your experiences working on Silver Sight that you fondly remember?
Well, I think for me, I was basically only around the campfire, so that was definitely a nice experience.
Short and sweet, huh? Actually, I'm curious. Well, I guess this is more for Matt and DJ. If you were to see more tales from the original 1937 Midnight Society, what kind of stories would you imagine those members telling? Just based off of what little we got.
I feel like that would be a good DJ question.
Yeah, maybe they tell the story of Tower of Terror, which is a movie I made.
There you go.
That took place in 1939. It was fun. I actually, I don't know, I watched the Silver Sight a couple of weeks ago, and you know, you forget about these things, but it was funny. The best part for me is that pretty much every character name, not the Midnight Society, actually Midnight Society as well, but every character in there is all names of my family members.
Oh wow.
Greg Jean's a family name. It's like I named my in-laws. They're all the characters are all named after people I know. It's like,
do they know that when they watch the episode, or have they seen the episode?
Probably back then, but they're not as tapped into the Are You Afraid of the Dark world as we are right now. So
Gotcha.
How
about you, Dave?
I mean, listen, Are You Afraid of the Dark was one of the best things that could have ever sort of taken my life down a particular path. I mean, it was my favorite show to watch, and then suddenly I was on it, and even I remember showing up like for the campfire set the first time, and even just learning the mechanics of how we threw dust on the fire and how many people were involved in making that happen seamlessly for viewers at home was beautiful. But then for us, for that same sort of team of folks to actually go on location and not just be in studio every day with Silverside was lovely. And I just really like structurally, I just thought it was ingenious to we always come back to that central scene and we follow a different cast member down a path to sort of find their piece of the record. It was lovely.
And then, weren't you wrapped in a cocoon in the Manaha, something like that?
Sure was. Sure was.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that, Dave? Being like a character in a story versus a Midnight Society member?
Well, it was. I mean, it was wild. I spent a great deal of time in a cocoon above a fire. I'm just. I was a mere child, and that was early on in the shoot. But I remember hearing that the show was coming back and hounding my agent, saying like, "Get me an audition. I want to be in the campfire," and it just sort of didn't happen. And I think I was just a bit of a diva, and I was very like I kept calling her and harassing her, and then suddenly she sort of snuck me in for callbacks, and then suddenly I was on the show, and I still couldn't quite believe it. It was like, well, I got to do, like truly doing Manaha. I felt like, okay, well, that's like the best. That's the best. Like I've hit that glass ceiling of Are You Afraid? Peak Are You Afraid of the Dark? I was in a cocoon above a fire. This is great. And then I got a couple seasons to put up with Daniel and meet Alicia and Vanessa and Kareem. And we had a great time.
That's awesome to hear.
Jeff, what?
Okay.
I'd like to hear from. I'll go after, but I'd like to hear about Jeff's favorite show.
Yeah, Ray, remember, I mean, we had really not a lot of time to crank out these massive episodes, correct them?
5 days.
So, and there were so many. So what I tend to remember is not really what was necessarily the best show or the best score, but just the quirkiest, off the wall kind of stuff, which is why I upset everybody with Pinball Wizard. My apologies. So I'm trying to think of there was another one simply because it was different from all the others, which was Ghastly Grinner, which was kind of like an attempt to out cheese Danny Elfman. It was just, there was this green goo bouncing off walls, and it was just like, it was really, the music score was totally tasteless. And so I remember that one. Yes, I know. There was another, The Nightly Nurse. I mean, there was really so many. I wish I had the collection so I could sit down and review them. I enjoy doing them all, but
I can always send you my DVDs, Jeff, afterwards.
Really, I would love that. I'd love
yeah.
that.
But jumping off of Ghastly Grinner, since we can get Amos in there for some questions, how did you get the role for Ethan Wood in that tale, and what was it like working with Ron Oliver on it?
I mean, I imagine, I think I just auditioned for it. I think was Susan Hart the Toronto casting agent back? I don't know if anyone remembers, but that's what I remember.
No.
Honestly, I have like way more memories of it than I have of a lot of the stuff that I did at that time. It was I had this like 10 days in Montreal where I got to like hang out in a comic book shop overnight, and Ron Oliver had I'm using your full name in a very
correct.
Formal way.
That is correct, Amos. Well, I'm also a knight, Amos, so you would say Sir Ronald, but go ahead.
Yeah. He had a Flaming Lips t-shirt. They were my favorite band of all time, and he would wear the Flaming Lips t-shirt to set for me, which was really great. And it was really this like amazing confluence of like, if you're like a young kid who likes comic books and punk rock and horror movies, you got to kind of do that all And it's still, I mean, it's to this day, it's the one thing that I've ever done that directors I work with bring up. They're like, you know what one of my favorite things was? You know, which is, I don't know, it's a testament to a bunch of the people in this room, I guess.
Definitely.
That's nice. But Amos, if I may, that's very lovely and nicely said. It's interesting that for a lot of us, and I think I'll speak with Mr. Winning as well for this, is that you know, we're doing the show and you're trying to do a show and you've got a schedule and a budget and all this stuff, and you're just trying to make the thing work. And you don't necessarily always understand what the impact of that work is until many years down the road. And I think that's part of what this discussion is about, is that we're going, you know, this has resonance. And so much of what this resonance is about goes back to DJ and to Ned, who had this vision to say, here's a show we could do that could be great. And you never know what's going to stick. And something like, as you said, the Ghastly Grinner. I mean, I get all kinds of people talk to me about that show all the time. I have no idea why. I think it's because the idea that your parents turn into zombies and they're crazy and they're laughing and it's weird, that disconnect, you know, I think that had a lot to do with it. But it was so much of it is about, as you're saying, there's some resonance to it that lasts for a long, long time. And again, as we've said before, is the freedom of these guys giving us this canvas to play on. So, and Amos, oh my God, I didn't recognize you until you said who you were. And I was like, because, you know, obviously it's been a couple of weeks.
Been a while.
Since we
A couple of weeks.
But look at you, all grown up like a young man.
So when like talk about Ghastly Grinner, Annik, how does it feel when your creation is like people have it tattooed on their arms?
Yeah, they do. Yes, I've seen that guy.
Do you remember Ron, because it was the year of Batman Forever, The Return?
Yep.
Where you wanted him white. And I said, no, let's not do it. Let's do primary color, yellow, blue. And you were fighting me. So let me do it.
Yep.
And I want him yellow, and you're yellow. And of course, you know, we're talking about the stuff that I did on that show, the stuff I put in people's mouth, the stuff I did. Oh my God.
Well, that's, again, you said before, it's about the collaboration of it. And
I
that's
know.
One of the great lessons I learned on our series was the notion of collaboration, the idea that we are more than the sum of our parts, and that we all brought so much stuff to the table. And I stand in the shadow of these creative people who worked with me on these shows, because, you know, I mean, even to the point where telling tales at a school, I remember the guy who was playing the Ghastly Grinner fitting into the costume. It's like, it's not good working. And a certain member of our production team said, I have a girdle in the trunk of my car. I'm going to go get it. And he ran out. I won't mention his name, Bone Cutter. And he goes back with this girdle, and we put it on the guy, and it worked. And I was like, to this day, I just, you know, I will never be able to thank the unnamed production member for that, because it made the thing work. But that, again, that's the ultimate collaboration, building something from the trunk of your car. My God.
And lending someone your girdle is also a huge collaboration.
There's
I just want to there, like Jeff said, there were, you know, I think, well, a lot of the episodes had decent music. You know, as Jeff mentioned, we had very little time to produce it, you know, like 5 days basically. And I think working on the, you know, I think it was challenging and fun to work on the Silver Site, which is probably the only 3 episodes that actually had like you know, was the same theme. So that was cool. But I think musically, Quicksilver, musically Quicksilver was, you know, like I remember I wrote something, you know, it was really intricate and fun, and it was a rather dark show, because one of the girls dies at the beginning, and so it was pretty intense. And I, like it was sort of a little bit of a black mass, incantations and so I actually had a lot of fun working on that one. And I think another interesting music show for me was the Long Ago Locket. I think you were in town because there was a period where I couldn't work on dark.
My episodes. Oh my god!
Oh, bless your heart, David! Yay!
I'm so excited.
Okay, bless him, everyone.
There was a year that I couldn't work because of a contract. It was a bit of a odd story, but I couldn't work on dark, and I missed, and Jeff ended up doing probably 15 episodes for that series. But I jumped in halfway through the series, and my first show was Long Ago Locket. And I remember DJ, you were in town, and you said you just walked in. I think someone was briefing me on the show. You just walked in and said, "Great show." And you closed the door and you went, so I mean, I hadn't worked on a dark show in about a year. And, Quicksilver and Long Ago Locket were like really, really fun shows for me to work on.
So I'm gonna use that as a launching point for questions for Jason, Annik, and David, if you don't mind. So in regards to Quicksilver, that was also one of the scariest yet most effective monsters that used to terrify me in my nightmares. And yet it was such a simple design, and he didn't speak a word the entire time he's on screen. I'm curious, did you have anything to do with the makeup, and if there's like an inspiration behind that kind of design, Annik?
I'm having a blank. There's so many episodes.
So I'll describe it. I'll describe it to you. Basically, it's like a very tall, lanky guy, brown robe, yellow skin, really gross teeth, like red rings around his eyes, and he'd like loom over you in a dark room.
And he goes through. He kind of runs, not runs, but
people kept asking me if I had done prosthetic on this guy's face, and it was all just makeup to create 3D. Because we only had so much money, so we had to save our money. Yes, that's it. And
that guy.
My eye when I did during that week. And so I had a patch. They blacked out my makeup room, and I had to rip the patch when it was time to do the 3D because I had no depth. I was like, oh my God, I couldn't see a thing. So yeah, that was fun. That was a challenge. I loved it because it was creating this. And I remember, that's another collaboration example is when we casted him, DJ was asking me about who would be the best Canva to do this character. And we looked at tapes, and I thought, oh, him, he's got bony and all of that, could work with that. And, where do you see that you can actually be part of a, end results that way? So, and I love doing that makeup. That was one of and I've had makeup artists asking me, what prosthetic did you put on him? What pieces? I'm like, none. It was great.
It's funny that happens to come up.
And you're doing it in 2D because you couldn't see depth?
Well, we were in that school during that week, and I rubbed my eye, retire. We always started like at 5 on Monday morning, and we finished on Saturday morning. So that was
Saturday. She was the Andre de Toth of Are You Afraid of the Dark?
There was the
Andre de Toth of Are You Afraid of the Dark? That's a film noir reference. Never mind. He's a one-eyed director who did House of Wax, the first 3D movie. So.
And so I did, and I rub. I ended up going to have to go to emergency, and it was like so bad. And she says, doctor was like, don't remove that patch. And I'm like, oh dear. So I'm doing the makeup. I can't see, I have no depth. So I ripped the patch while it was time to do the 3D version, and then I'd stick the patch back on. It was like, yeah, great time.
It's all the more impressive that you accomplished it that way, knowing the story.
The 3D.
Definitely. Moving on to Jason once he's finished with his drink. Your brother, actually, Kyle Alisharan, was in the Tale of the Quicksilver. What was that like for him acting in a story while you got to be on the other side in the Midnight Society?
It was a great memory, like he came out to Montreal, and I remember I remember buying him tickets actually to go watch the Canadians play, and he stayed at the Chateau Marmont, and he was there for like a week, and it was just a special moment. And we do these podcasts, and people ask me like, "What's your favorite episode?" And it's like, yeah, when my brother did that episode with Tatiana Ali, and yeah, it's great. And it's funny because we do these podcasts, and then people don't know that it's my brother. It's like actually a surprise. Like they're blown away, you know, like super fans, and I think they haven't figured it out. It's like the same person, or my brother. But yeah, it was a great experience. You know, like look, the best way I can say this, if you ask me about the Are You Afraid experience, it's like going to college. Do you remember the exams? Do you remember the classes or the courses? No. You remember your friends in the dorm. I remember DJ and Ned and Ross and Daniel and Annik and the relationships and the times in the makeup chair. You don't remember what we shot. I can't remember any of that stuff. You remember the people. That's what it's like. That's the best way I could experience.
Well said, Jason.
Very true. Very true.
Moving on to David, because I know we haven't had a chance to hear much from him yet. You've done some very iconic episodes in directing, including Midnight Madness, Shiny Red Bicycle, Watcher's Woods, Quiet Librarian, which I believe.
Ron, did you hear that? He used the word iconic.
Yeah. I mean, everyone who's here has been a part of an iconic episode. I'm just trying to steer the conversation.
I'm so excited. Wow.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell us about some of the tales that you directed, David, in terms of like what your favorite moments are, or some of the challenges you overcame, or, you know, even if you worked with Susan on Quiet Librarian, for example, what that collaboration was like?
Well, Quiet Librarian was a very weird thing. I wanted to just jump back to something else. You guys were talking about Goosebumps versus Dark real quick, because Ron and I did Goosebumps, and I remember I don't think DJ knows this, but they were kind of pulling directors from Dark to do Goosebumps when it first started, because they thought we're gonna get these people. And I remember going in to do Goosebumps, and there was a real strong kind of jealousy, like, we don't want to talk about Dark. We don't want to talk about Dark. Don't talk about Dark. Don't mention it. Don't mention Dark. And I thought, you know, just personally for me, I always obviously preferred Afraid of the Dark, because I always felt like the difference between the two series was that Dark was always safe for kids to watch. You know, it was scary stuff, but it was safe. And Goosebumps, I don't know if Ron agrees, but it always had kind of this sinister feel to it. They always did kind of those gotcha scares at the end. And I thought DJ and Ned brilliantly couched the stories of, you know, the tales around a campfire. And you always knew you were going to come back to friends around a fire, and you're just telling stories. And I thought that was part of the coolness of it. It's like, you get the thrill of the roller coaster ride, but you always know it's going to park safely at the end. And a lot of these other scare series, I just think didn't get that. And I think it gave kids kind of a safety net. It was a great thrill and a great scare, but, you know, it was.
Yeah, I actually agree. I think that is what was the hallmark of it, that, you know, there's the, you know, so scared, but that you couldn't wait to watch it again next week. You always knew that it was going to be okay. And I think that really made a huge difference in that show, and really made you feel like you were in a good place. It was Saturday night. You could watch it. You could be scared all you wanted for the fun, but you really knew you were going to be okay. I give my partner all the credit for that, of making, there was a safeness in it. He's that guy in real life. So that is really a hallmark of it. And I really,
I think that's one of the reasons it's lasted so long, is because it's got that safety.
Yep.
David, before you talk about your episodes, going back to the Goosebumps thing, there's a moment, I never felt any competition with Goosebumps. And we were on the air for years before Goosebumps started. And also they had, you know, the incredible book series lead in. So I never really felt that. I know Dan, who produced that show, and, you know, it didn't bother. But there was one moment where I had a meeting with the woman who was the head of Fox at the time. Fox made Goosebumps. And the woman I was with, who worked for a company, I won't say the name because it's a very big company, and just in case somehow this gets back to me, but she introduced me to this woman who is the head big honcho. And she said, and this is DJ MacHale. He created Are You Afraid of the Dark, the much better written version of Goosebumps.
Oh, no.
Oh my.
Well, it was palpable, DJ, when I was there. It was very palpable. They were like, don't mention Dark, don't mention it. Was so, but
you were going to talk about your episodes, Dave.
Well, I got to jump off in about 3 minutes, guys. So let me do real quick. I love them all. I had so much fun doing that. I did 10 of them, and I love them all. I was proud of them all.
What's one?
I can pick one out for you if you want.
Shiny Red Bicycle is the one that seems to
yes,
be
that's
from,
yes
from kids. Which one? It had a real kind of, that was one that I thought really dealt with the death of this poor kid that fell, and the locks in Montreal, and it felt kind of real and heavy, and the one that females always talk to me about, the one that scared the hell out of them, was the doll maker. For some reason, girls really found the doll maker really scary. And of course, I love the connection with Sixth Sense, which we're all going to take credit for from
Have you guys looked up, like, just Google M. Night and plagiarism? Just Google that.
It's way too long a list.
There's like 8 different versions of it. And people that I know that produce his movies, I mean, just do yourself a favor. Google that.
And I was trying to get a real quick story, personal story. I was trying to get this girl I'd found in one of the actor books. I just was in love with this girl, and I was trying to get her in one of the episodes. I tried to get her in Dream Girl, and it became somebody else. And then DJ may remember this, and I tried to get her in I think Unfinished Painting. I was trying to get her in that, and I finally got her in The Tale of C7, the one about the jukebox, and she became my girlfriend for years. So that's an episode that I loved.
Oh, I didn't know that.
For a variety of reasons.
Did you guys get married?
Breaking news here first.
No, it had a rough ending, which will be in chapter 7 of my book.
Gotcha.
What was C7?
Chapter 7.
What was C7?
It's about the
I'm trying to
jukebox
remember.
that plays the song, and the girl keeps coming off the dock at the.
Oh yeah, I remember. I did that. Yeah.
You did the music with it?
Yeah.
That was lots, tons of fun.
Yeah, and actually, at the end, you needed. I gave you a reference for this kind of like crooner, this young crooner for the last tune, because it was. I did the score.
It was a 40s guy returning from the war, and they had the.
That was
party at the end and stuff. It was.
That was a good show. That was a good show.
It was very good.
Bad relationship, however, but a good show. Yeah, okay, fine.
Well, it was good for a while.
For one of the most chilling sequences of all of Are You Afraid of the Dark was in a show. It was a collaboration with Susan Kim and David Winning, with The Quiet Librarian, where they go into that room. All those kids are in there with the cobwebs, and they can't talk, and they open that. Susan has got a macabre mind. Let me tell you.
Honestly, DJ, do you think you could get away with some of this stuff nowadays? It certainly wouldn't be on. Maybe adult TV, but it wouldn't be on Nickelodeon anymore. Things have changed so much,
Kids have disappeared.
An amazing idea, amazing concept, and then visualized phenomenal. That's one of the things that made the show so great is the writers and the directors that they could come up with these things.
But great. David, that's a very good point, because I just today got an email from a streaming service that we're dealing with, and a show that we're pitching, a movie we're pitching, an R.L. Stine thing, and their comeback on it was, it's too violent for our kids and family thing. And I was thinking, this is not even close to what we did on Are You Afraid of the Dark? Not even close. And right now they're like, no, we can't do that. We can't do that at all. I'm thinking, my God, how many kids do we kill on Are You Afraid of the Dark?
I haven't seen it. So. The first series I ever directed was Friday the 13th, the TV series in Toronto. And it ended up getting canceled because they ran it in syndication, and they were running it like 11 a.m. on Saturdays and freaking out kids, because this was a show about lighting monks on fire, and it was just insane. It was insane horror stuff. They went down the tubes because of public pressure. But Dark was in its own world.
Days,
Guys, I have to run. Appreciate the time and everything. Thank you. Thanks, DJ.
Thanks for joining us, David. Appreciate it.
And thanks, Ron.
David.
Where are you going at 8:30? What do you have to do, Winning?
Oh, I got it.
It'll
be in the book.
Alex, would you like to ask one of the specific questions?
Absolutely. Give me just a moment to scroll down here through all of our notes.
Yeah, we definitely over prepared for this.
We did. DJ had just touched on it. I actually had a question for Susan Kim, because you had actually written my favorite episode. So with the episodes of Curious Camera, Quiet Librarian, Carved Stone, Jagged Sign, what inspired you to do those stories specifically?
Those are the only ones I could get past DJ. It was ruthless. I think I pitched 9 million stories to DJ, and he'd be like, no, No, not scary, not good. No, we did something like that. We did that in season 1. That's not scary. That's no good. Do that. So it's just I just kept pitching and pitching. So basically, what you saw are the out of the 9 million stories I pitched, DJ.
There's a weird thing that every season, it was, people would pitch. I didn't write it all. I mean, there are amazing writers like Ron and Susan who repeats those things. And it was amazing how every season people would pitch similar stories. Oh, I don't know if it's in the ether or whatever. It's just like I just had 3 pirate pitches. What the heck was that? So that Susan was a victim of that, I think.
Didn't I and Susan, you gave me. I had 2 of your scripts. I did Carved Stone and Curious Camera, I think.
Yeah.
And they were like some of the most visual stories. That's what's great about it, because sometimes with writers, God bless them, but sometimes with writers, it's like on the page, but it's not visual. And your stuff was always so visual. That's what's great about it. You could see it as you read it. You could see the thing in your head. It was terrific.
Thank you. Well, I mean, really early on, DJ said these really are, I think everyone said this to some extent. He kept saying it's like a mini movie. That's the great thing about an anthology series, is that everyone is a standalone. Everyone has a different flavor. Like the first one I did was the carved stone, and that was like a comedy. It was Sardo. So that was like sort of, it was so, like you could
and
really.
Was it Frank Gorshin in that?
Frank Gorshin, yes. Frank Gorshin.
Oh my God, remember that?
From Batman.
Whoa. Yeah.
So you could really do, like, you can do a rural thing. The librarian was different. The Curious Camera was like, obviously, like sort of this high school anxiety thing. So you could really just do, and it was so great because it's like completely different setting, completely different set of characters, and you could just really let your mind go. So that's the visual thing, was just like being allowed to think of it as a mini movie. And then that's the way you think of stories. You think of it visually. So it was really great.
And as far as because you had mentioned it earlier that you also did the 2XL cassette tape thing. How different was writing for that as opposed to
that was totally, it was impossible. That was impossible because it's 2XL is like, it's like really, really early interactive storytelling. So it's an 8-track cassette. So it's basically it's like analog. It's analog trying to be digital. So it's like these 4 audio tracks, and you have to time it. So like, and there's music playing, and oh my gosh, the actors who had to like I was just like, how is this going to work? But there's a lot of, sort of sound effects and music to sort of vamp until you can switch over to button C. So that was completely nuts. I also did like the audio stories, and that was much more sort of like Are You Afraid of the Dark, except they were more sort of like prose. And I've written prose, I've written books and stuff. So that was sort of shifting over to a different part of my brain. But yeah, that 2XL was like a nightmare.
Ross, didn't you do the recording for 2XL?
I did, yes.
You did. That was, your voice is in my mind.
My voice has probably changed a little bit since then, I would think. But yeah, I remember doing those. Did we do them all in one shot, DJ? I think we did. One of the studios where CNR was, I think.
Yeah.
From what I remember.
Yeah, I didn't produce those. I don't know.
I do remember there was for some reason, I went to the audio guy who was doing he did like Foley's and sound effects, and he had a sound effect library. And he was this old British guy in Manhattan who had done the sound effect. He had done sound for the EastEnders on the BBC for like a billion years. So he was this old British guy who had this really cool old-fashioned sound effect library, and he would sort of play things for me. It was really kind of cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Interesting experience.
Yeah.
And then Ross, you went down to Florida. Ross and Daniel and Jason, you went down to do Orpheo's Curse, right? The game.
Oh yes, yeah. And
I
people
didn't.
still ask me about that game. They still
No,
contact
yes,
me.
I did.
Yes.
Yeah, you did.
It was in 1994.
Okay.
That was
okay. Daniel, you
Season
don't mind
3.
like 2 Universal Studio trips or 1?
Yeah, I just remember. Sorry, Jason, go ahead, man.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so Daniel's not gonna remember this, but like he was younger, and so I got this is around the time that Bugsy'd come out. Remember the Bugsy the movie? And
Yeah.
They had like
Yes.
of like Pacino, like the plastic mask. So I bought the mask and I put it up. So Daniel and I would wear these masks around the park. You don't remember this? We have pictures.
I don't remember this.
You don't remember this? So, like we would have our like ID badges, like the Nickelodeon like badge, and we would just walk around the park. But Daniel and I would make him put the mask on. Yeah. You don't remember
Yeah,
this?
I think I vaguely remember this now, but I think I blocked it out of my mind because some of the reception that we got was not very good.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. Absolutely true. Sorry. Yeah, that's what you do when you're 14 years old. You do shit like that.
And
Yeah.
Back to the Future. I think we did the Back to the Future ride like 20 times in a row or something like that.
Yeah, because we had
Oh,
that backstage pass, or we had like a handler that was running us around. So like there was no lineups, there was no anything.
Yeah. Remember
Oh
that
my
guy?
What's
God!
DJ got?
Wow.
Is that Are You Afraid of the Dark picture?
Insane.
That's proof. That's
Now,
proof.
that's a
Wow.
story.
Yeah, that
All
was
Midnight Society members are
wow.
looking 90s fly at Universal Studios.
yeah.
That's still
Love
up
it.
at my parents' place.
Uh,
That exact picture.
So you
Yeah.
can't deny it.
I can't. Oh
There
my
you go.
God.
Wow.
What a great
Wow.
picture.
Look at Joanna Garcia. Geez.
That's an Are You Afraid of Are You Afraid of the Dark episode. Like the handler from Nickelodeon that knew Orlando really well. You need to tell that story because that guy was insane. That was. Remember that guy?
Do you remember? Yeah, he was our driver. He almost killed us several times. That I remember because I was terrified.
You guys need to. Hey, Susan, write that story. That's
Yeah, he almost got us killed. I don't know, and I'm not even
Yes.
kidding. Like his driving, even at that age, and I couldn't even drive yet. I knew it was horrible. Like didn't he drive over a medium at one point? He drove us in a parking lot or something. He almost killed us several times. That was really scary. Okay? See that I remember clearly. Okay.
Yeah, there you
It's all
go.
coming back
There you
now.
go.
It's all coming back.
Yeah.
Wow, the memory on Jason. Wow, that's
Oh,
impressive.
Daniel, I have pictures. I'll send you the pictures.
I
think
can't
have them
wait,
somewhere.
man.
I gotta find out. But yeah,
I
I made you
can't-
dress up in the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
yeah, that was that I remember very vividly. I was terrified. Yeah. Talk about scaring the cast of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Yeah, that was scary. Yeah.
You never quite know what kind of memories are unearthed when we're all together reminiscing, right?
What a trip, Jay. That's awesome, man.
Orlando is a family-friendly city. You know. Montreal, Orlando. I'm gonna take Montreal. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, good call.
While Daniel's in the spotlight, I actually have a interesting question for him because he's the only Midnight Society member that's been both in the original 5-season run and the revival seasons. So I'm kind of curious what the differences were between those two experiences, or if there was any difference at all, and if you have a preference toward one or the other.
Yeah, there was two differences. I mean, I went from being the youngest and most annoying to I guess the oldest and still annoying. So it was amazing. I mean, you know, Ross and I really do have that brother relationship. Like we still to this day, we still see each other, we still chat, we are still close, and we still have that relationship. It's unbelievable. But that was the biggest thing for me to, you know, because that's kind of what I always played growing up, and I guess now is that annoying character. But when it flipped and then, you know, everybody else was younger, I was like, oh, I guess I got to I guess I have to kind of step up a little bit and sort of not be a jackass all the time. That was the first thing that I remember, but and now I can't remember what else I was gonna say.
So essentially,
man.
now you feel what
I
it's
do
like to be in
remember.
Gary's shoes.
Yes. And thank God I had the idol of you know, my idol Ross Hall, so I could channel that when I was doing season 6 and 7. But I remember with Annik, and I mean that, Ross, and I remember with Annik, I used to have to shave at lunch, and Annik used to have to find like different ways to just like, I shaved this morning, and this is like, she went out and found this new age razor for me at the time. Like I remember we were shaving literally at lunch. So that's
And he was
what I
12
remember
years
most.
old. He was 12.
I was Ron. You're right. Yeah.
I remember controlling everyone's acne because I don't remember DJ. We used to shoot the campfire over what, a week,
Yeah.
2 weeks?
2
What
weeks.
was
Yeah.
it? 2 weeks. So, you know, they wouldn't want to clean their face. So I had them all line up at the bathroom with the spectral gel. Remember,
The
guys?
spectral gel, the big tubs of spectral gel. Yeah.
You know what? No, seriously. No, Brett. Seriously, Alex, Brett. That's the question you've not asked. The amount of acne that happened on that show. No, seriously.
Man.
Like I've been on a lot of these panels. That's a question that's never come up. And that's exactly the Spectre gel. I'm having like a flashback now.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Exactly right.
Spectre gel.
You hear it here first on Splat Attack, guys.
Oh, I'm telling you, she was innovative, and she used to have these oil absorbing like sheets back then in the 90s. And then it wasn't until like the 2000s that like Clean and Clear came out with the exact same. I don't even know where she found these. They were in these little ornate like French books, and they were beautiful, and she would rip them out and dab our forehead. Yeah. And it wasn't until about 10 years later that Clean and Clear finally came out. And I was like, Annik, how do you know this? What are you doing? Well, like, she knows the secrets. She's really like 200, and she's got like just all this stuff.
The secrets of Are You Afraid of the Dark are the powder, in the fire, and the Spectre gel. Those are the two things. That's how it works.
You know that powder? You know that powder in the Tale of Many Faces at the end of season 7 that like makes your complexion glow before Madame Visage would steal your face? That's essentially that powder.
Look, you're kidding about this, but seriously, that's on a daily basis. Me personally, I had the worst acne ever, and she would literally like scrub me.
I think we all did.
And then she would like, she would touch it up, and they would like shoot me this way or this way, and then light me. Seriously, it was insane.
Yep. It's true. It's all true.
All true.
That's real behind the scenes stuff. Yikes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely something I did not expect to come up, but why not? Why not? We're just airing everything out today.
I just I'm in this wild place now where I'm a dad now. I have a kid. He's 3.5. And out of nowhere, he has discovered like horror. Like that is like his jam. He has no idea I was ever on this show. And I'm really excited in the coming weeks as we're getting closer to Halloween to introduce him to Are You Afraid of the Dark for the first time.
Oh man.
And I think it's gonna blow his mind. Like it's everything he keeps describing that he wants in a show. And I just have to like get ready for it because it's gonna be way more screen time than his little 3.5-year-old brain has ever had. So
right. I can't wait for that moment when he actually sees you there.
Yeah, well, already I've tried to like show him the DVDs. He's like, that's not you. I'm like, okay, well, I tried.
Cool. Nick, you were going to say something?
No, I'm just very happy to see everybody. I mean, I didn't know Susan. I wasn't privy to having met her. And it's just really, I mean, I had a full day today on another show I'm here in Vancouver prepping for. And suddenly I'm just arriving here, landing with all of you. And it's just very heartwarming. It really, truly is. It feels like home in a way. And it's just, I don't know, I just want to say it. I'm so grateful for the show. I'm grateful for DJ. I'm grateful for Ron, everybody, Ned, that I've had the opportunity to work. I really do believe that with my personality and my creative process and meshing with their energy, I could not have come into a more perfect chemistry to, help become the better of me. And I think I truly believe it's helped me be, what I am today. And so it's just really cool. And seeing all these grown up men.
Let me just jump in. Can I jump in for a sec? Because Annik said something very smart, which is not unusual because she's brilliant. What she said and what I think we all feel is, first of all, it feels like we did the show last year, if that. I mean, the import of this show on our lives is such that I don't ever feel like it's not something I've just done recently. So to know that it has impact on people's lives, their imaginations, in many cases, their careers. I can't tell you how many crew members have come to me and said, I got into the film business because of Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Wow.
These are important.
Imagine.
Yeah, it's incredible. And on a personal note, I've had kids who were actors for us in Montreal or from across the country when we were doing it, who've come to me later on and said, I came out because you were a openly gay director making this show, and I was comfortable enough to be myself. And that kind of stuff, that only happened because of the world of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Because totally, because of Deej and Ned and Nickelodeon and this incredible familial feeling. It was unlike any other show, and I've done a lot of stuff, but it was unlike any other experience creatively ever. And I think we all owe an extraordinary amount of gratitude and respect to both DJ and Ned, because they brought us this gift that has changed our lives.
You know, I had a career after being an actor that had nothing to do with being on camera. That was behind the scenes and really seeing like the nuts and bolts. And again, just to have the first experience with Ned and DJ, and they take a chance on you and they create this very loving atmosphere. It's like, you know, I'm 44, I'm maybe 45 soon. It's like, I still think about these two men every day, you know, and I'm so grateful. And that's the legacy that I think about. I don't think about the episodes. I don't remember the episodes. I don't remember what happened, but I remember those two, you know, and I remember those, you know, Ross and Daniel, I remember Annik. That's what I remember the most. But again, what's the most, you know, DJ and I have done these panels before, and I always talk about how talented he is. And he's really talented, but he's a better man, you know, and it's just great to see Ned here too, and to be able to express that to him as well. Just so grateful to be a part of that kind of production, because it's rare. It never happens, ever.
To piggyback off that a little bit, when Brett and I were kicking around this idea of doing a 30th anniversary special, we tinkered a little bit with the idea of, okay, let's reach out to a couple people and see if there'd be anybody who'd be interested. And both Brett and I have had the wonderful opportunity to speak with DJ. And when Brett reached out to DJ, he actually gave us the challenge to reach out to as many people as possible and make it a big thing. So a lot of, speaking as a fan, to see all of you be getting so excited to see each other again and hear these amazing stories. I mean, we get excited about the show as it is, and then to hear all this extra backstory stuff, it's so refreshing and invigorating. And I appreciate all of you guys for coming out. I appreciate DJ for challenging us, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful, and we cannot say thank you guys enough.
Can I just say something? I think of this. I have kind of Ned and I have a unique perspective, certainly on this panel. Because, like, you know, Annik never met Susan, and Ross doesn't know Jeff, or, you know, well, we know all of you. We've worked with everyone, and many more that aren't on this panel right now.
Yes.
And I could say that the success and the value, whatever Are You Afraid of the Dark is, it was a cumulative effort of a whole bunch of incredibly talented, dedicated people. I mean, you probably say that about a lot of shows, but this show in particular, everyone brought their A game and did it willingly and put up with all the BS that I put, and it's everything that it is. It's a result of this team effort. I for better or worse, I always feel like I'm the face of Are You Afraid of the Dark, so I do a lot of these podcasts because they're fun. Why not? And with each one, I try to remember to say, you know, but you got to talk about this person, you got to talk about that person, because I didn't do all this. I don't know. I don't know.
DJ and Ned, you all really gave the platform to bring out the best out of everybody. You really have, and you had this nurturing, caring about everybody. I remember DJ, you saying, oh, is such and such person doesn't look like she's feeling well today. And you were very observant all the time, you know? So, I mean, not everybody have that. And Ned, you were always enthusiastic, like kids, business people, all the best, all rolled up in one, you know? And so
there's another dynamic.
I don't think we knew it. I
Like
thought we were supposed to have fun on these shows. I thought you know, it was hard work, but we were like, the people were great. We thought this was how it was supposed to be. I have been on other shows where it doesn't quite work that way. But, you know, DJ and I did 3 shows together, and they were fun. They were just fun. You know, people were trying their hardest. There wasn't much in the way of politics. DJ and I are not huge politicians. And, you know, the people tried really hard, and they showed up at work, and it was, this show especially, I mean, 7 years is just crazy. Of the same spirit from the first day to the last day. That was really something special.
On most, you have a dynamic, which is like with producers, which is, and this works, a good cop and a bad cop. And the balance of those two things creates a very good product. In this case, you didn't just have 2 good cops. You had two like exceptional people. That never happens.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
that's what's special. And that's really what should be appreciated and recognized. And I've said this to DJ before. That's the
Modeled.
success. It starts from that and it spreads out. And again, Ned, I haven't seen you forever. I love you, but like this is why your show is so successful. Because you two, you're talented, but you also did something exceptional. You brought this love and you brought it forth. And again, for all the people on this panel, Ron, Ross, Daniel, Annik, you've all worked on other shows. Jeff, you've worked for shitty producers. Is this the way it is? It's not. So let's not pretend that it is. Okay.
And I gotta add something,
because the whole point of this thing is to make something wonderful. And I think that the fact that to this day, when you tell people you did Are You Afraid of the Dark, they smile, like their faces light up. And that's because you guys infused this thing, not just with creative challenges, not with just the creativity and the freedom of it all, but with this love of the storytelling, the love of story. That's a DJ thing so much. The love of Evelyn Anchors, the love of storytelling that just it translates across the world. I mean, people around the world see this show, they all know it. And that's because you guys gave it so much love and let us share that. So it's a big deal.
And I want to add something. I think, DJ, you said about our A game. I think you allowed us, you pushed us to do our, to bring out our A game. But, I can speak for myself and a little bit for Jeff. I mean, we've both done thousands of episodes, of many series. And the one by far, which I'm the most proud of, is Are You Afraid of the Dark? And it was my first series. I'd never done a series. I was like 29 when I started writing that, composing those shows. I didn't know much about it. And I just jumped in, and I was guided, and you allowed us to make mistakes, lots of them, and you corrected every single one of them. But it's okay. It was what? It made us better. The show was great, and it ended up being one of the. I mean, it's a cult show. I mean, we should, all of us should be. I mean, especially DJ and Ned, because you created the show. But I think and the directors, but the composers, the actors, and everyone, the makeup artists.
We all did.
We created. All of us created a cult show. It's one of the top shows in the world. It's not a small feat. It's huge. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the people. I'm proud to have done it. I'm proud to have worked with Jeff Fisher, who's an amazing composer, and with DJ and Ned and everyone. I mean, honestly, I'm so proud of this. Every time I mention Dark, people go like, "You did that?" I said, "Yeah, I did that."
And the beauty of that is that it still has ripples all these years later, because I was one of the few people who, well, shouldn't say few, but many 90s kids who grew up with it from a young age. And it just became a part of our DNA back then, when we were hooked through all the different scary stories, and even stories of history and romance and mysterious and macabre each and every week. And it just became a part of our fabric, just seeing all these kids around a campfire telling stories that we could relate to. And I think because of that magic and wonder and love that was all put in that show, we feel that too. I mean, if it wasn't for that and me connecting with all you guys, I wouldn't have made this book. I wouldn't have done all this Are You Afraid of the Dark art that I'm doing for podcasts. I wouldn't have made a mini 3D stone throne or like a bunch of stickers, because I really love this show, and I want to know as many people as possible in the world that this is an amazing show and deserves as much love and attention as possible, even in a sea of noise in 2021. So I just have to say, as a fan who's, essentially a liaison between, the creators, the actors, and the other fans, this means a lot to us, and we're just ever eternally grateful that it exists in the first place because of this unique family that has come together. Thank you so much again. And as a final presentation before we officially declare the Midnight Society meeting closed for the 30th anniversary, I put together a little animated presentation for you all. So I hope you enjoy it.
30 years ago, I remember turning on the TV as a child late at night. I saw these kids with a campfire, and they told us scary stories that stirred our imaginations. Now, after being away all this time, is the moment we return to the dark.
Are you ready?
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow.
That's great.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Yay.
Nice.
That's
Awesome, man.
That was great.
Awesome. Great.
I had to show off my film and animation prowess just a little bit to show you guys that, you know, if I ever had the opportunity to work on dark, I can handle it.
Well done.
Those
Very well
stickers
done.
are amazing, Brett. It's
Thank you.
so remarkable.
We're going to conclude this episode of Splat Attack. Thank you all so much once again for joining us. And Ross, DJ, will you do us the honors of declaring this Midnight Society meeting closed for us?
Ready, Ross? Should we do it?
Oh, okay. And okay. I think I still remember the lines.
But yeah, you've only said it 47,000 times.
I declare this meeting
of the Midnight Society
closed.
And often you said, until next time.
That's right.
Pleasant dreams, everybody.
Reprise the theme song and roll the credits.
Hard to believe, folks, but it's time to say goodbye.
Nighty-night.
Hey, check us out next time for more adventure and another great legend of the Hidden Temple.
What'll we do till then?
Chill for a couple. We'll be back.
You're on, Nick.
And it was time for the superhero to move on.
I declare this meeting of the Midnight Society closed.
Bye-bye.